fans. This is the Juice Box Heroes. I am your host, Sweet Bryles Bones, aka Bryles. And we've got tonight with us Chris, the Dubon Fan Club president, as always, and president of the Juice Box Heroes. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'll tell you what, man, it feels fantastic to be back. Man, like it kind of sucked to not be, on with you guys on Friday with the big news of Tucker getting traded. But I had to take care of some stuff, here at the house. So, man, I'm just happy to be back. I know that we are definitely one guy less. That's PK. So big shout out to PK. He's a little under the weather, so he'll definitely be back hopefully by next Thursday. So I know that we normally do this on a Thursday, but somebody, we won't mention who, booked holiday lights at the Space Cowboy Stadium for tomorrow. So quick thinking.
Not me.
So quick thinking for everybody to kind of rearrange their schedule so we can go live tonight. So, man, we're gonna have a good show again. Welcome to everybody who's watching us from Facebook. Everybody's watching us from YouTube. You can find us on X, Juicebox Heroes. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube. As you can see, our handles are on, so you can find us, talk to us on Twitter. Mine's at H Warrior 738. Browse is at Sweet B Bones. So, man, not a whole lot of crazy news that's taken place since the last time, you guys were on. Also, a big shout out to Brett from Locked On Astros for kind of filling in my spot on Friday.
For sure.
Um, so yeah, I mean, so since our last episode, since I've last been on, we had the big Kyle Tucker trade, which I mean, pretty much what I've kind of seen over the Twitter universe, Facebook, stuff like that, is that kind of mixed reactions. So, and I know you guys did a whole live episode a couple days ago, so we won't get too much into it. My quick feedback is that I'm all for it. Like I like the pieces they got back. Um, like I think everybody knew that he was going to be someone that we weren't going to re-sign. So, like I said, man, like for me, like I get it. I mean, it sucks to see him go, but like if you're not going to re-sign him, and like I said, I think we all pretty much expect um, his contract to be about 10 plus years, 10 to 10 plus years, anywhere between probably 4 and 450. So, I mean, it's good to
It's
see,
going to be a big one, man.
yeah, I mean, it's good to see the Astros learn from their mistakes and um, you know get ahead of him leaving for nothing. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like so the stuff that I've read, not like I said, not a whole lot. We had some, I don't want to call it breaking news today, but we did have the whole Arenado officially, putting it out. He is not going to waive his no trade clause to come to the Astros. So I guess for the Astros, back to square one. I mean, I guess their plan is to, I guess, move Paredes to first base and find them a third baseman. So I guess that's what they're doing. The last I read, they're still saying that even after the trade of Tucker, the talks are still the same with Bregman. So it's not like he said Bregman's or Tucker's gone, I'm out. So I mean, I don't know, Bros. What do you think about the whole Arenado putting the X on this potential trade to the Astros? Because I read it was close. I read the deal was close to being done.
Yeah, I mean there's so many things going on here. So one, you're right. It was very close to being done. Not only was it very close to being done, apparently there was an entire trade that was on paper, ready to go, signed off, and Arenado was like, "Nope. Hey, before you guys get any further in talks, I'm not going to go there." So one, that sucks. But two, the fact that we were even going in there, I mean, think about what happened before that. So I think the Tucker trade, honestly, like kind of set all that stuff off. So you're right. We got Paredes. He can play third base. Like I was saying on our last podcast, he can switch over to first base very easily. He can slide over there and play both. And that's a big bat that we're going to want in our lineup one way or the other. So what are you going to fill now? It's like, so there was another report out today saying that the Astros weren't even necessarily a front runner for Bregman. And then, like 4 hours before that, it was like, oh, well, it's either the Red Sox or the Astros. It's one of the two. So I think third base right now is just a complete question mark on what's going on. And then we're going to have to navigate that to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of the positions. And since we talked about the Tucker trade, I first was like, yes, 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 it's great. Everything was perfect. I still think that we got a really good haul for what we did. And especially considering the fact that we let somebody go and traded them finally before we got zero for them. And not only that, we did get good players back. I really wish we would got an outfielder. And now I'm kind of looking at it saying, like, hey, we got two, third basemen basically, one that can play first base, and we got a little bit of a hole now coming up. So it's going to depend on honestly the next couple of weeks in where they maneuver and what's going to go on. I mean, I'm hoping this doesn't drag out all the way into spring training, but at the same time, it's like the whole Tucker trade has set off like just shock waves across not just our like own team, but going across every single team that was trying to pull either a third baseman, outfielder, or anything else in either trades or free agency. So it's going to be super exciting to see what's actually going to come up here in the future.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know, like the whole Arenado thing kind of, kind of throws me off a little bit because I think it was the whole, I think it was the report of Bregman and the Astros being 50 million off that kind of really set everything into motion. Because if
Yeah,
you have the warm and fuzzies about bringing Bregman back, then I don't think you're asking for the package that you got from the Cubs back, right? You might be asking for maybe Wisniewski and maybe Suzuki, and then maybe an outfield prospect, right? I mean,
right.
you essentially got a guy right now that could play third base, and then in a year, maybe two, when Cam Smith is ready, he's going to take over third base, and you move Paredes to first. So it's just like it doesn't make sense. I mean, now granted, I think Arenado still had 3 years left on this deal, so
Correct.
I'm thinking from what the MLB prospect projection for Cam Smith is going to be 2026. So not this upcoming season, but the following one. So then if you make the trade for Arenado, then you essentially have, you know, you're not going to DH him because you're going to have Jordan DHing. So it's like, where are you going to try to fit Cam Smith into this? So that's the only thing that kind of threw me off. It's like, okay, okay, so you're trying to double dip and you want to go ahead and add Arenado. You're going to put Paredes at first, but it's like I feel like you've already got your third baseman. At least I don't want to call him a bridge, but essentially you're bridging him until Cam Smith is ready, and then you move him to first base. So that's what kind of threw me off. It's like, why are we trading for a bunch of third basemen now? Like,
Well,
this
yeah,
doesn't
and
make
I
any
agree.
sense.
It's like I kind of feel like that's the one thing that I'm really uncomfortable with. I know you talked about in the last couple of episodes that you were on that we were kind of looking at third base and looking past Bregman and possibly, what was going to happen. And it's come to fruition. It's now where we've got Paredes there that could play third. Like I said, he can move over to first if, he needs to. But at the same time, I kind of don't like the way that they're stockpiling at third base, I guess is the
Yeah.
best way to put it. And when we've got open other positions and they're saying they're still trying to sign Bregman. So if you're still trying to sign Bregman, then aren't you stockpiling it like outfield and pitcher position? Like, give me that bullpen. Give me some other starting pitchers. Give me a first baseman. One thing that I was noticing today is that the Astros official like Twitter page it's released another like promo on Big John. It's like they are trying to sell John Singleton like all day long till the cows come home. I mean, it was not just today, it was yesterday and like 4 days ago. They've had like three tweets on John Singleton. So that kind of worries me a little bit, to be honest with you. It's like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the guy. I know you love the guy more than I do, but at the same time, it's like, please don't try to sell him to me as like, this is our dude. He's going to be amazing. It's like, okay, listen, we know what John Singleton is. So, anyway,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, coming into the 2024 season, the bar was set pretty low for John Singleton. So the fact that he hit, uh, the fact that he hit 240 something, for a
247. Yeah,
yeah, so like any type of normal player where the bar is like 250, that's like him coming in and hitting 290. So he was a beneficiary of a very low bar that was set. Um, but yeah, I mean, like this whole thing is kind of confusing because even if they go and go get Bregman, then it's like that's your third baseman for the next 6 years. So what was the purpose of getting Cam Smith, right? I haven't read anything that shows that he can play any other position but third. Maybe he plays first base too. I don't know. Or they're thinking, you re-sign Bregman, and in about 2 years you start transitioning Cam Smith to first base, or sometime this year in the minor leagues you transition him to first base. So again, I mean, like I feel like instead of putting all your eggs in a basket to try to go get Arenado or trying to go get Bregman, I mean, if we're looking to trade guys that people are trying to get rid of, I mean, there's other options that you can go. Like you could go, I mean, if we're talking about older players that have pretty hefty contracts that other teams are trying to get rid of, I'm not a big fan of this, but if this is the route you're trying to go, I mean, you might as well go call Minnesota and ask for Byron Buxton because at least that fills a hole that you need, right? Right now, in my opinion, looking at bringing Paredes over, as of right now, he's my opening day third baseman. So,
correct.
and then I need him to last 2 years, and then Cam Smith is going to come up. So, if you're going to do that, and that way, without either that way you package a deal, let's say McCormick, and then maybe I don't know, you can throw in Shea Whitcomb. I don't care. And, at least you're throwing your eggs in a basket. At least fill a hole, fill a void, fill a need that you need right now. Because right now you already have your third baseman for today, and then you have your third baseman for tomorrow. So why are we trying to get another third baseman? So
Well, think about it this way. I mean, you got Cam Smith, and yes, he's a third baseman, and he's a big prospect at third base, right? So he's on your farm. Maybe he's just a prospect that we can flip for whatever we need later on down the road. Maybe the plan was never to put him at third base. And I'm not saying that that's a good idea, but if you've got that chip that you can play and actually go grab that outfielder that you want, grab that first baseman that you want, or whatever the case may be, you've still got that chip to play. So maybe
yeah,
he's not even in the works.
but I don't think that was the game plan then. Because if your game plan was to, hey, I'm going to get this prospect and then flip him for a proven, let's say, star, then the entire package for Kyle Tucker should have been nothing but prospects. That's
Agreed.
where
Well,
that's where I kind of
I totally agree with
that's
you
where I
on that
disagree with you, or disagree with that. If that was their plan, if that was their
philosophy,
plan,
right?
if that was their philosophy, then they executed it terribly. So, I mean, I felt like they probably made the trade, got Paredes as an insurance in case Bregman didn't sign, since he can play both corner positions, and then Arenado was like their plan C. It's like, okay, well, we got Paredes, Bregman's plan B, and if Bregman doesn't sign, then we can maybe trade for Arenado. That's our plan C. But again, too, again, I mean, if your goal is to not trade the farm, which we don't have much of, but if your goal is to get a guy that's under contract that a team is trying to get rid of to stick at third base, go get Correa. If that's what you want to do. He's 3 years. I mean, he's got to be what 3 or 4 years younger than Arenado, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you just traded Tucker. You want to bring some joy. Speaking since we're in the holiday season, if you're going to bring some joy back into the Astros fans, bring back Correa. Then you solidify third base. You put Paredes at first, and then you use what money you have left over to, at the bare minimum, fill one of those outfield holes that you have. I mean, like I said, if that's the play to go get a contract that another team is willing to offload, and it has to be a third baseman, go get Correa. I mean,
You're
we
not
know
wrong,
what
man.
Correa can do. We know what he can do in the playoffs. I mean, so it just doesn't make sense. I don't get this. Like I want to hear news like the Astros are close to signing, Christian Walker, or they're close to signing, or they're in talks with Jerks and Profar, or um, Santander. That's what I want to hear. Like let's fill these holes in the outfield because right now I think as much as we can improve the situation at first base. I mean, you kind of have a nice little platoon there with Caratini and Singleton, right? So I don't get it. I don't get it. That's fine. Arenado doesn't want to play here. Whatever. I don't care. Go get
Yeah.
us an outfielder, please. Dana, go get us an outfielder. That's all I'm asking. Go get us an outfielder that's worth something. That's all I'm
Well,
asking.
and quite frankly, I don't really care either. It's like Arenado, yeah, I get it. And supposedly the package for him was going to be flipping Paredes anyway. And
Oh, they were going to
Presley,
send them. They were going to send them Paredes.
they were going to flip him Paredes, Presley, and a pitcher out of our AAA system, which they did not name. And then St. Louis was supposed to eat a whole bunch of money, and Arenado was going to come over.
Okay.
That was what
Yeah,
they were talking about.
I
So
did read
it's
something about where if he would have been traded, we would only be on the hook for 13 of the
yeah,
20. I did not see the package that we were sending. And if they would have traded Paredes, that would have been stupid, in my opinion.
that's what they were saying. But we were going to keep Cam Smith. So in what you were
It's so
talking about,
dumb.
like stockpiling third baseman, he would have been the third baseman of the future. We have Arenado for 2 3 years or whatever, and then Cam Smith comes up after that. So
It's so
I,
dumb.
anyway, it doesn't matter.
Now
It
I'm
didn't
glad he
happen.
exed it. Yeah, that's so dumb.
Yeah. So
Ugh,
what I mean, at this point, yeah, it
that
doesn't
upsets
matter.
me.
We've got a lot of stuff we need to focus on. Both you and I have talked about like outfield. Outfield right now, I mean, we've got Chaz on a 1 year deal. We've got Jake
Myers
on
on
a
a one
1
year
year
deal.
deal. And then we've got question mark in the other corner outfield, whichever one you want to put out there. So I know there's a ton of free agents out there that aren't going to cost us a whole bunch of money. So I'm hoping that at least that Dana Brown is looking at that and saying this and not trying to like trade some ridiculous package to go get like one or two like mediocre outfielders, something like that. Just go grab a couple guys off of the giant outfield free agent list, by the way. It doesn't have to be a superstar. I'm not saying you have to go sign Teoscar. I'm not saying you have to go sign, Santander or anything like that, but at least get something that we can get halfway excited about now that we've got Tucker gone. But to go
Yeah,
back to it, it's like, yeah, that whole Tucker trade, man, it caused just like shock waves going all the way down, and it has changed so many teams like trajectories on what they're actually looking to do. It's like now you've got teams that are like, oh well, we never thought about Bregman. Well, maybe we should go ahead and try to pay him. And it's but why? You don't need it. Like honestly, the Red Sox don't even need an infielder. They could use an infielder, but that's the
yeah.
last thing they need. They got
No,
plenty
I
of it.
agree.
So
Yeah, I mean, it did set off a flurry of things because now it's like, then you had the Yankees pivot and they made the Bellinger trade, which I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I know why because it's the Yankees, but everybody's acting like they just got I don't know what year it was, where 2017 Cody Bellinger, but they didn't. I mean, if you look at his stats, he dropped off in every single offensive category this past season.
yeah,
I mean, but
like
again,
he
I mean, like New York didn't give up much for Cody Bellinger. I mean, there's guys that
no,
like
he gave up Poteet. That's
there's
it.
teams that are trying to shed money, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like if that's your goal, right, is to shed money, then go try to go holler at Byron Buxton and hope that he could play at least 120 games, right? I mean, any of the slew of guys in free agency that are outfielders as of right now. are probably better than any three, or probably all three of our potentially starting outfielders right now.
Give me Max Kepler.
I would take him right now. I would take him. Of course, I'm big on Jerks and Profar. I mean, right now, I would say Kike Hernandez is better than all three of them. And we don't even, I mean, all I can go off of is what Dana Brown said. There's going to be some type of platoon in right field between Mauricio Dubon and Taylor Trammell. That's going to be our right field platoon.
I got a problem
That
with
is
that.
that outfield. I mean, yes, they'll be great defensively, but that outfield of Myers, McCormick, and Taylor Trammell slash Dubon, that's atrocious. That's a rebuilding team's outfield. That's like, I mean, again, and who knows? McCormick could have a bounce back season. Jake Morris is always going to be 220 to 240 hitter with great defense. I'm just saying, but if you can solidify one of those spots, because I get it, you want to leave an open spot for when Jacob Melton comes up, which will probably be sometime this season, this upcoming season. We'll see Jacob Melton in the majors. So you're trying to keep one of those corner outfield spots flexible for him, but you got to give me a bridge, and I'm not talking like a Taylor Trammell bridge. I'm talking like a Kike Hernandez or somebody that you can bring in on a 1 year deal that maybe you pay 5 million. About halfway through the season you can say, okay man, thanks for getting us to where we need to go, cut him loose. And then you say, Jacob Melton, you own this position now. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even be mad if we're talking Jason Hayward or Ben Gamel. I mean, I know. Listen, I know you scoff at that, and we've talked about this before. But listen, those guys brought life to the club, and if we had them for a year, I'm not saying you got to play them 162 games, but I'm saying if you got those guys on the team and they can come in and give us a little bit of energy and play maybe 80 games each,
But they're
I'd
still
totally be good with
platooning.
that.
They're platooning with Dubon in right field. So they're not playing every game, but they're playing probably at least 2 to 3 games for every two series. So I mean, like I said, it'd be one thing if you had a solidified right fielder and you signed Hayward as outfield depth on the bench. Okay, I'm cool with that. He gets to play once every 5 days. I'm all right with that. But right
So,
now, I
game on
mean,
the line. Do you want Dubon or do you want Hayward? I hit you with a hard one.
I don't even know. I mean, because Dubon, I will say this: he started off last season a machine with runners in scoring position, and then he fell off the Grand Canyon.
He did.
I mean, I just based on, I'd probably go Jason Hayward, but either way, I'm dying on the inside. So
There's no right answer. And don't get me wrong. If we get to that point, then we'll discuss it later on in other podcasts.
yeah,
But let's just hope it doesn't get to that spot.
yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and shift focus now, because I mean we've already spent a lot more time on kind of like a recap and the fallout from the Tucker trade than I was kind of hoping for. We did have one signing that is going to solidify the backup catcher on the Space Cowboys, and I already forgot his name. It was
Joe
something
Hudson.
Hudson. Joe Hudson. There you go. I know nothing on him. Nothing at all.
Joe Hudson has 166 at bats at the major league level for a negative 1.24 and
Mm,
a .163 batting average. So
mm,
he supposedly is a very good defensive catcher, but at the same time has basically nothing on his bat. And he is
mm.
also 34 years old. So
Oh, even better.
he's
He's
yeah.
depth.
So he
Okay.
he is literally depth behind Caesar Salad, and that's pretty much all I got.
All right. Okay. So I want to spend a couple of minutes on this before we get to the highlight of tonight's episode. So I've been seeing a lot on Twitter, Facebook, all of the interwebs that I've been looking on. And I see a lot of people saying that if Jeff Luno was still the GM, he would have got the Tucker extension done, Bregman would have been signed, and stuff like that. So when I see that, and I know PK's listening, and I know he would say that I'm a Dana Brown homer, but I don't think really. I don't think it would have mattered who the GM is. I mean, as long as Crane owns the team, like he's just I have yet to see an extension get done that's longer than 6 years, or a re-signing, or a signing period that's been longer than 6 years. So like, then it kind of got my wheels turning on what guys did we see come up that were fan favorites that we let walk, right? And I think the only one that really comes to mind, because Luno's last year as GM was 2019.
Springer.
I, it was Well, Springer left
Oh,
after the
sorry, my
2020
bad.
season.
You're
I was
right.
gonna say Dallas Keuchel would be the only one,
No,
and
you're right. You're right.
I don't remember his stats after 2019, or maybe it was 2018 he left. I mean, but I know this kid was a Cy Young winner. He was beloved. I mean, he had his own corner at Minute Maid. Um, but yeah, I don't like I said. I go back to I don't think that um, I don't think Luno would have gotten the Tucker deal done because I think he would have been handcuffed with the 6 year deal, and that's coming from the man who pays all the bills. So I mean, you could have had you could. I mean, it's just all about who your owner is. I mean, you can name every famous GM, and if your owner says 6 years is the max, 6 years is the max. So yeah, I mean that's I get it. You're upset. You like Tucker. You're sad he's gone. I don't think Luno would have gotten the Tucker extension done. I don't think so.
I, I'm not going to argue with you on that. It's so tough to say that it's one way or the other. It's like Lunel, like the one thing I will say about him is that I feel like he had the cojones to actually tell Crane like, "Hey, look, this is what you hired me to do. This is what we're doing, and I'm going to do it whether you like it or not." And I do kind of feel like that after he was gone, when we had Click, and then when we had the committee, and then after that, now that we got Dana Brown, I feel like it is more Crane driven, kind of like the old school Yankees back in the '80s with the boss, than it is more of like, hey, you actually have a GM that's in charge. I kind of felt like with Lunau, we had a GM that was in charge. Since then, I don't feel the same way. But it doesn't matter. I honestly, I think this is a moot point because
Yeah.
honestly, you and I were talking about this. Lunau's not coming back, man. He's all in the soccer world. He is doing his thing. He's bringing teams up that were like in relegation up into like the Premier League, stuff like crap like that. I mean, to in
Yeah.
all the different levels. So right now, his focus is not baseball. I'm telling you, if the Dodgers or the Yankees came back and said, "We'll write you a blank check," I'm telling you, he's giving up double birds right now and saying, "Look, I'm done with baseball. I'm playing soccer
Yeah. I
or
mean,
football." Excuse me.
yeah. You got to say it is the football. Yeah. I mean, like I just think that even with all, I mean, because there's been there's been what a couple books written on the that whole regime after everything went down, and I can't remember any piece of any book or any article that came out where Luno put his foot down at Jim Crane, and said, "Hey, we're going to do this way." I think Jim Crane gave him the parameters of which to work around, and then he did. So, I think that's why they were so big on all the development stuff in the system, because they knew that, you know, you would get them to where, they would start arbitration. Hopefully, they'd sign the 6 year deal, buy him out of arbitration, and then you're good to go. So, but there was a question in the chat. I'm about 20 minutes behind. Andrew wants us to do a lineup prediction with the new guys coming. Man, this is gonna be tough because this lineup is gonna make everybody sad. I would probably go Altuve. I don't even know who I'd put at number two.
Oh,
I
we're
mean,
talking batting lineup.
yeah, I mean, I'd probably go Altuve. I guess Pena at number two, Jordan at
Pena,
number
Jordan.
three. Maybe put Paredes at, or maybe put Diaz at number 4, Paredes at number 5, and then the crap you have in the outfield to finish up the lineup.
Yeah, after 5, you don't even want to talk about it.
After 4, you don't want to talk about it. That's only because we're pushing Pena up. I mean, really, you have 3 guys in that lineup, and then we'll see what Paredes does. So you have 4. So less than half of your lineup is somewhat proven to what you can count on. The rest of it is your Bon Jovi. You're living on a prayer.
And Andrew, honestly, dude, come back like in a month, maybe 6 weeks. Come back and like say, hey, what does the lineup look like now? Because I honestly think that we're going to be making a whole lot of movement. There's going to be pieces moving around, and we're going to get a little bit more clarity on possibly what AAA looks like, what our team looks like, what free agents look like, stuff like that. I mean, you're just rolling the dice at this point, and let's
Yeah, I
put it
will
this
say
way.
this.
I don't think any of us like it. What it
Yeah,
looks
I
like
was gonna
right
say,
now.
as of right now, it looks a big bucket of no bueno is what it
It
looks
looks
like.
like a hot turd, is what it looks like.
Yeah, with a little bit of glitter on it, just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Okay,
With an
so
Altuve, a little bit of in Jordan glitter.
yeah, you can throw Diaz in there too,
Fair enough.
but everything else is we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Uh, so yeah, all right, sweet. We spent about 4.5 minutes on it. Okay, so to the main event of tonight's episode. So with a lot of people are now saying that the end of an era, the Astros era is over. Sadness, dark clouds, thunderstorms. And I guess at first I'm just like, man, y'all overreacted. But then if you think about it, you're just kind of like, I mean, in a way, they're kind of right. I mean, because the only one that's really like, if you go back to 2017, the only one that's left now is Altuve. You go back to 2019, which, man, I saw a picture of the 2019 Astros lineup. Oh my God. I
Oh,
think it's
murderer's row, man.
that picture that said the best lineups never win a World Series. Oh, good God. You had a young Tucker batting eighth. Good. Ugh. But I mean, even if you go back to 2019 now, you look at that team and you have just 2 guys left, Jordan and Altuve. So I was kind of like, you know what? Maybe this era is over. That doesn't mean they can't start a new one, depending on how they treat free agency and, these guys that they have coming up within the next year or so. So PK came up to my office at work and he was like, dude, let's do, and I think he got the idea from the radio. I don't know what station though. So he was like, dude, we should do a pyramid of the Astros playoff studs over the last 10 years. And yeah, so I was like, man, yeah, we can do that. I mean, so we kind of compared notes a little bit, but I think for the most part, I mean, the top of the pyramid is pretty much non-negotiable. Like there's no way to dethrone the top of this pyramid because I think the criteria we came up with was overall playoff performance. Now, there's been a lot of good single moments throughout these last 10 years, but if we're talking overall playoff performance, then I think, like we talked about it a little bit, I think tier one, which would be the top, would be if we knew that guy was pretty much done, and then maybe the next tier is somewhat done. So when he said that, the first name that came up, the top of the pyramid, in my opinion, and I think it's
The one
everybody's
man.
opinion, is Altuve.
Gotta be.
That's the, I mean, the amount of clutch home runs, hits, moments. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that one's the undisputed champion of the top of the pyramid has to be Altuve. Then from so I would say, Brawls, you agree? Altuve's at the top of the
Yeah.
mountain.
I mean,
Okay.
over the last 10 years, if we're talking about, I mean, this guy's going to have a bronze statue out front excuse me, Daikin Park, um, of him, I don't know, jumping up, sliding into home, something like that. The dude's got so many clutch moments between 2014 and today. It's
Yeah.
there's no way. Not only is he like the top of the pyramid, but on top of that, he's also going to be a Hall of Famer coming up at some point. So
No, I agree. I mean, like I said, there's so many, like you were saying, so many memories, so many things that like he's done. Like you had the three homer game, 2017 against the Red Sox. I mean, who could forget
the
the
Chapman home run.
Chapman home run, the home run off of Leclerc in what was that, game five, game six of the
Yep.
2023 ALCS. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's undisputed Altuve's at the top. So as we get to the next tier, which I think is what, two, the next two that are on the next level. So I thought I had this figured out, but the more I think about it, it's just like I would have to give the next one
I got
to,
two guys, and I know who they are.
so my two guys, I was going to say George Springer, and unless I'm forgetting anybody else who really did a lot over the playoffs, I was going to put Jordan up there at the second tier. Oh, no, I'm sorry, no, not Jordan. I was going to put Correa up there. So I'm going Springer, Correa.
I had two different guys up there
Okay,
because
let's
we're
hear it.
talking about we're talking about a 10-year span, and I'm thinking about playoffs, what won us, what got us to World Series, and World Series moments. Number
Okay.
one, and this is 2017 trade deadline for the second trade deadline. Justin
Oh, talk about
Verlander.
JV. Okay.
Got to go Justin Verlander. I'm sorry. There's no way you can't talk about what we've done now. Don't get me wrong. It's as far as if we're just talking playoffs and that's it. Justin Verlander, I'm sorry, he's kind of been a no show in the playoffs,
Well,
except
that's
for
what we
like
were
two
talking about. We are
years.
talking about playoffs.
But there's no way we would have won that World Series in 2017 without him. So I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt in all of that. The
Okay. Okay, go
second
ahead.
one's got to be Bregman, man. He's had a
Keep
ton of
forgetting
big
all these
moments,
people.
and I was talking to my buddy who's a Yankees fan, and he was actually on the podcast Spawn.
Yeah.
So he was like, man, do you remember when Bregman just absolutely murdered us in the ALCS every single year? He was a vacuum at third. He made every play, every off like ball. He was like diving and then doing a throw across the diamond. He was doing a crazy play where he took a bad hop, threw it to home, and got everybody out. He was like, there was no way we were going to win any game with him playing third base. And that's how every single Yankee fan felt. So I've got to put Bregman in there. So my
Ah,
two are Verlander and Bregman in
yeah,
that
I
next
mean,
year.
so, I mean, I keep forgetting about Bregman. Uh, I'm not quite sold on JV. Yes, he did fantastic in 2017. Um, he got, playoffs wise, he got lit up against Seattle in 2022. He got lit up in against the Phillies. Now he came
Yeah, he
back
did.
and won, I think game five, I think is what it was. So I mean, like that's my only thing. Like if this is just playoffs, then I'm gonna. I think he may be on the next tier. But like I do. I mean, but here's the thing though. It's like yeah, Bregman was he's consistent, right? But man, if you compare him to Correa, or you compare him to Springer, Springer won a World Series MVP, right? Went off. I think he hit like 7 home runs in
Oh no, dude, I
2017.
agree.
Um, and
17,
then
he was amazing. I mean,
and then
unbelievable.
I guess we can only go off of 17 for Springer because he was no. I don't. I'm trying to remember what he did at 19.
He was here for the 19, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember what he did. So that kind of tells you outside of 17, I really don't remember what he did. I mean, but you're talking about Correa, dude. Correa. I mean, you had all the moments in 2015, right? Comes up rookie season, hits two bombs against Casey.
Yeah,
Then you
Kansas City.
have Yeah, then you have 2017. He hits that walk off. Was it the walk off double that scored Altuve? He had a couple of
Yep.
those where he hit the walk off. He hit the walk off against was it Washington or was it the Yankee? Man, you want to talk about a Yankee killer? Correa was a Yankee killer as well. I mean, you had all of the stuff Correa did, and then you had, I mean, alone single handedly carried this team in the 2020 playoffs as well when we were down three. What was it, 3-0 or 3-1 to Tampa? Hit that massive walk off home run to force a game seven, I believe. I mean, like, so like when I think of playoffs and I think of moments, I have to say that the only person I can think off the top of my head, and again, it could just be me getting old, but I would like to think these are like memorable moments. The only guy that I can think of that's got more memorable moments that I can name off the top of my head is Altuve. So for me, I mean, I can kind of, I'm okay swapping Bregman with Springer, but I think Correa is a cornerstone at that second tier.
If it makes you feel better, it's like Springer's in my next tier. So,
Yeah. So I mean, so when we get to tier three, which I think is what, three people, I guess, this is where it really becomes kind of murky because it's like, because I want to throw someone like Pena in there. Pena came in and he carried the entire team
dude,
with
it,
in 2022.
World Series MVP, man.
Yeah, and ALCS MVP, right?
ALS,
But
I'm
then
sorry. Yeah.
no, he got both of them. So he won the ALCS and the World Series MVP. But then I think, what did he do in 2023? Nothing. Nothing of nothing of shock value. 2024, well, that was so short. That was 2 games. So that kind of bumps him down. Then I think of that's when I kind of think of that would be a perfect home for Springer and probably Jordan as well. Um, again,
Yep.
Jordan not as many, but man, it's hard to forget. Maybe it's because it's more recent, but like the walk off in versus Seattle,
dude,
dude.
that was
I can't even
exactly.
I can't even tell you how many times like recently I've rewatched that video of him hitting that walk off, and that in the home run in Game 6 of the World Series. And
I,
even Washington, he went off. I think it was one of the games in Washington. He went off. I think he hit like 2 bombs. So I'm good with the third level, at least 2 to 3 being Springer and then Alvarez. I'm not ready to bump. Um, what's his face? Oh
Pena.
yeah, see, PK had a good one too. I keep forgetting about Yuli. Yuli was another
I
one.
got
Now,
Yuli my next year. Don't. I didn't forget about
so
him. I didn't
I
forget
did,
about him.
I did.
But
In my opinion, that last spot on tier three is kind of up for grabs. I mean, it could be. I'm okay with it being Yuli. I'm okay with it being. I mean, I'm Pena mainly because he had that one good playoff. I mean, but I think that once you get to the third tier, that's it gets really tough after that because then you have to break it down. And then after that, I would just that would probably be the end of this pyramid, in my opinion, unless there's anybody else I'm missing.
well, the only reason I'm putting Pena in this third tier is just because of how dominant he was, and it was he. Not only was he dominant, but he was dominant in a World Series year.
As a
It's not
rookie,
like this was
as a rookie,
as a rookie, he had big shoes to fill. I mean, Correa had left. We had this dude, rolling up that we're like, oh, we'll Pena, and they just kept showing him like walking out of a hot tub being ripped, and we're like, okay, well maybe he can play shortstop, and then all of a sudden it's like he gets up and shows everybody what he can actually do, and not only that, he's humble. He's a good kid, and then he
yeah,
comes up and gets ALCS MVP. He gets World Series MVP. I got to put him in the third tier for that one. So
yeah,
I totally agree, man. I don't see any way that you'll leave him out of that.
yeah. Then I would say your honorable mention would probably be Yuli. I mean, because I mean, dude, granted, he didn't hit walk offs. He didn't hit, you know,
Clutch, dude. He
I mean,
was
but the
clutch.
guy was just a hitting
Good
machine.
lord.
I mean, but now if we broke it down into like moments, I mean, because like another guy that we're kind of forgetting about too is Brantley.
Oh,
Brantley,
Uncle Mike, dude.
yeah. I
Speaking
mean,
of clutch,
he had a, like granted he wasn't top, first tier, second tier, but you can make an argument for him to, you know, be another honorable. I mean, it's just tough. Like that's.
Can
Go ahead.
can we just like reenact like the or go ahead and revisit the whole I can be a coach and actually play rule that MLB has, like make him our hitting coach and then throw him in every now and again when we need to pinch hit for a single. Because I'd
Yeah.
love to have that dude like in about 10 spots during the whole season if we could actually have him, man.
Yeah.
But dude, that guy was so clutch. He'd just get up there, and if we needed a single, dude was going oppo every single time. He was.
Yeah. I think that. Yeah, I mean, and really honestly, I had forgotten about Brentley too, but I think it was yesterday, like right after PK and I talked, a video popped up on my YouTube, and it was that Brentley sliding catch that he made against the Yankees, that diving catch,
Yep.
and then doubled off the guy at first. I think it was Judge at first, and it was just like, man, Uncle Mike, I totally forgot about you too, and you were just on the team last year or in 2023. I mean, but PK has some good ones. He had Dallas Keuchel in there as well, and
Oh, he
then
was on my
and then
list.
and then he gave McCormick a nod just because of that catch he made in Philadelphia. I mean, so maybe once PK gets back to feeling 100%, there's gonna be some episodes out here where we're gonna need some filler. I'll be real with you guys. Maybe we do a top 10 playoff moments because after that, I mean, because like a lot of players had like really good moments. Like if you think about, like we just talked about the Brantley catch, we talked about the McCormick catch. I remember like we can go back to Peacock coming out of the bullpen and shutting down the Yankees for
Brad
like 4 innings.
Peacock.
Yeah, you could talk about McCullers coming in the 27,
Or
ALCS and throwing
Grinky.
you have McCullers coming out and throwing 27 curveballs in a row and just mowing people down. I mean, there's a lot of good moments that if you just think about it, Game 5 of 2017 World Series. That's all of that all those are fantastic moments, right? I mean, so maybe we try to break it down to maybe each of us come up with like a list of five, and then we try to rank them in the top 10. Which I'm sure like there'll probably four of those that are going to be solid. They're not going anywhere, and then the rest it's just, I mean, but like you know, looking back, and it's kind of been crazy because it's like I can't believe it's already been 10 years since like we had it's just kind of crazy how quickly things can change over 10 years. Like you kind of look back and you're like, man, I'm surprised we didn't win at least two more World Series. I mean, because we had the lineup to get it done. Like we should have, like I don't
We
know
should
what
have
happened.
19, man. There's no way.
19, we should have absolutely. No, Chirinos was probably Washington. I don't think he was on the team in 2022. Maybe I don't know. But it's just man, like that 2019 team, 2021 too. Like, well, 2021 that's when they had all the pitching injuries, and I don't. They somehow snuck past Boston in the ALCS. But man, those were some good teams, man. Some fantastic teams, and it's like, as much as like kind of like you want to be greedy, you do like you want your team to be like 100-win team every single year. But it's hard to do that because at some point, that farm system's going to flip over, and that farm system that was number one ranked overall is now ranked number 30. So it's just kind of like it's like you're at that point where you've almost made the 180. And like I said, this team is still not a bad team. I mean, you have holes to fill, but it's just like, man, like just going back and like thinking, man, I probably over those last 10 years probably took 20 years off my life. How stressed out I got over all those games. So yeah, man, like I thought that was pretty fun to do, put together those that pyramid. That was a good idea, PK. I'll give you that. So
And
you
dude,
get
there's so many highlights, like you were saying, Chris. So we still need to go over. And PK, when you get feeling a little bit better, we'll get in here and talk about a lot of those. But I mean, you got to think about it as an Astros fan or as any baseball fan. We have been so lucky, and just I mean, I can't appreciate how awesome the last 10 years have been. So it's like if we get anything close to this, I'm going to be super happy. And even the way the team sits right now, I mean, are we still better than the A's? Yeah. Are we still better than the anybody else pretty much in our division? Yeah, we are. And even if you don't think we are, we're still at least going to compete and go up in there and try to win it every single season. So it's not like we're sitting here and just like, oh, what are we going to do? It's the era's not over. I don't care what the media says. We still
I
have a
mean,
whole lot to do and a whole lot to prove.
no, I agree. I mean, maybe the players that we've come to know and love, maybe that portion of the era is over. But I mean, like I said, man, like you look at any great dynasty, I guess if you want to refer to the Astros as a dynasty. I mean, look at the Yankees teams in the late '90s. I mean, those
Yeah.
you look at all those players, and then now you flip them like 6, 7 years later, and look, I mean, they're still chasing that. I mean, they haven't won a World Series since 2009, right? I mean, so and
Yeah.
that team has come nowhere near as dominant as those late '90s Yankees teams were. The Braves. Look at the Braves. I mean, like they won. Yeah, they won in 2021, but they were never as dominant as they were in the late '90s, right? So, I mean, in the '90s, you knew that both leagues, the teams, the path to the World Series ran through the Braves and the Yankees. That was it.
Yep.
I mean, so the fact that we were relevant and not just relevant, but played baseball at a very high level for 10 years, and and again, it took a complete tear down rebuild. But I mean, like looking back, I mean, we got to experience, I mean, shoot, man, like it took me 31 years to get to experience all this stuff. Like I tell Benjamin all the time, like, you have no idea how lucky you are. You were born into a World Series, and they won another one in 2022. So, I mean, like, it's been a hell of a ride. And again, I'm not saying it's over, but like looking back, I mean, like, we just have to be smart with free agency. And, I mean, clearly there's a reason why they don't give guys the 10-year deals. And, there's enough in the history books as to justify why giving guys 10-year deals, isn't worth it. So I'm good with that.
Fair enough,
So,
man. I totally feel it.
well, I will say this. One, this episode definitely flew by. So,
Yeah, I know. It's like we're almost at an hour right now, and I was like, okay, so I need to talk about this, but
yeah,
no, it is time to wrap it up.
yeah, guys. So again, I want to thank everybody for listening. If you're listening from Facebook, from YouTube, okay, man, hope you get better. See you guys next week. And again, to everybody, have a fantastic Merry Christmas. Hope you guys have some time to calm down over the next week. Enjoy it. We get two spots here. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, aka X, YouTube. We definitely recommend it for 2025. Thank you guys a lot. More professional than we have been. So again, PK, get better. We're looking forward to you being back next week. I'm fan club president Chris. I'm also here with Riles, and we are the Juice Box
Box
Heroes. We'll catch you guys next
Heroes.
week. Merry Christmas, guys.
Hook 'em. Beat Clemson.